Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Faith Builder. Happy Monday. Hope you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. I'm excited. We begin this week kind of a new series. We're going to break down this week what we talked about on Sunday, which was the idea of hope. What is the foundation of our hope? And I just begin this morning by asking you, how is your hope doing? Strange question maybe, but it's an important one for all of us to really lay hold of, is what's the anchor? What's anchoring our hope? Where do we find our confidence, right, to support our hope? And obviously for followers of Jesus, it needs to be in Him. But the book of Hebrews, especially chapter 10, gives us some incredible insight that I want us to briefly look at this morning. We're talking this week about this idea of hope being hope equals confidence plus endurance. And it raises the question, if our hope, we have to, what is it? We're confident. What's the foundation of our confidence for our hope? And then endurance is what's building us up to keep our faith, to keep our confidence in our hope. And so we're going to just go a little deeper than we did on Sunday with all those things, and I want to talk about a little background. But right now, I just want to read for us, this is chapter 10 of the book of Hebrews, and give a little more background too, especially around this idea of confidence in what Jesus has done for us. Listen to this, chapter 10 says, "For since the law has but a shadow of the good things to come, instead of the true form of these realities, it could never, by the same sacrifices that are continually offered every year, make perfect those who draw near." So what the writer is saying here is that the law is but a shadow of what God really intended for us. And what is he talking about, the law? Well, the book of Hebrews breaks down the Old Testament, the whole sacrificial system that God gave Israel, in that the sacrificing of animals, the priesthood, all this elaborate worship. And the point of all of that was to allow us to get closer, right, into the very presence of God. But we see, and it even tells us here in Hebrews verse 4, chapter 10, it says it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. In other words, this was always just a temporary fix, right, until the perfect came. In other words, the sacrifice of animals, religion itself could never make any human being right, justified, pure and holy before a holy, perfect God. We needed a perfect sacrifice, not just our own lives or a human life or anything. It needed to be a perfect life. And there's only one who could do that, who could once and for all. And in verse 14 of chapter 10, it makes this amazing. This is a verse we all should put to memory or just soak up. But verse 14 says, "For by a single offering, by single sacrifice, he, Jesus, has perfected for all time those who are being sanctified, those who are being made holy like God." What a beautiful promise. And so we see that the law was a shadow. In other words, the law and all what we see in the priesthood was meant to there so that we could draw close to God, a holy and perfect God. But we see that God has greater intentions. His desire, and all through the prophecies of the Old Testament, talk about putting the law in our hearts, that God had a perfect plan, and that perfect plan entailed His Son and sending Jesus to fulfill the law completely and to provide a way that we could actually draw near and get to God. So the law and all that religion that we read about in the Bible is just but a shadow. We can only draw so close to God with all of that. There, it was a barrier. Religion really is a barrier to us. And God wants us to run boldly and give us confidence. And actually, this word in the New Testament used in this chapter for confidence is what Jesus has done for us in going and tearing the veil and opening up access, the once and for all sacrifice, is that because of that, it's given us confidence. The word parasia actually means boldness that we have, and He's given us through faith, boldness to enter the very presence of God and pursue Him. And later in this chapter, what we saw on the Sunday was we're to draw near, right, to God in that. And just a couple things to think about here. This idea that Jesus is the one who's taken away the shadows. In other words, without the cross, without the resurrection of Jesus, His work, His perfect sacrifice, God remains in the shadows. We can't draw near. He remains vague. He remains scary, like in the Old Testament. People couldn't just get quite close. And I think for many of us, we might even feel the same or experience the same even now. But Jesus is the one who's provided the way. And just three important things to remember about this is, first of all, Jesus is the way into the very presence of God through the veil. That's through His body. He's the one and only way, right, to the Father. No one comes to the Father but through Jesus. The second thing is Jesus is our high priest. No other person, no other structure we need. There's no other priesthood we have to go through, or no other hierarchy or religious structure is that we go boldly as his children based on his blood, based on his grace. And faith in that, we can go before God. Amazing. That is the good news, right? And finally, Jesus is the only one who can truly cleanse us. And on in the book of Hebrews, it says we've been washed by his blood. He's the only one who can renew us and strengthen us in who we are. And so I hope you'll hold on to those handles. This beautiful word, parrhesia, boldness, confidence, is God has given us. We're to exercise that and to draw near to God based on what Jesus has done. And not some religious structure. God wants us to be intimately close to him, and Jesus has provided the way. Man, through our religion, our ritual, we cannot, but Jesus has. So I hope that encourages you this week. And remember what hope is. Wrestle with this. Hope is confidence plus endurance. And we're going to talk more about both what this confidence looks like and also the endurance as the week goes on. God bless.